Hi and welcome to this third video in the series about the Intel hardware architecture. In this video I'm going to talk about virtual desktops, the GPU integration in the desktop, but more importantly the impact of a write endpoint into the total architecture that you as a customer might want to consume. So what I drew here already is the Intel Flex or Max GPU. In this case, it's an Intel Flex 140 GPU or card with two different GPUs on it, both with 6 gigs of frame buffer and those 4 encoding chips. I drew a virtual machine running a graphical and computational application. So it utilizes both the computational APIs as well as the graphical APIs, which we touched upon in the first video. And it also uses the AV1 codec to basically encode the video streams. We have a virtual function of 2 gigs assigned to the virtual machine. And what you would now do is we need to provide access to an endpoint, right? So we utilize the Horizon platform for that. So I'll draw Horizon here. And since Horizon 2306, there's full support for the AV1 codec when it comes to encoding the video streams. So we utilize the Blast Extreme video or remoting protocol. And at the other side of the spectrum, you obviously have something we call an endpoint. Endpoint. Could be anything, but for the sake of this Lightboard video, let's utilize a Windows-based machine, physical machine. What's important here is that we utilize the Horizon client to connect towards the virtual desktop using the Blast Extreme remoting protocol. I think what's really cool of the latest version of the Horizon client for Windows, but also for other types of operating systems, is that it natively comes with that AV1 support. So, and that's really important for you to know. So if you would like to utilize a codec that's offloaded to the GPU, you need to configure that in the Horizon client as well. So in this case, if you utilize the latest architecture, for instance, of the Intel client CPUs, the 13th gen Intel Core architecture, it natively comes with a discrete GPU that has AV1 decoding next to H.265 and HAVC decoding, as well as H.264 natively supported in the GPU. So besides offloading the video stream to an encoder, so encoding that video stream, you can also offload the decoding of that stream to dedicated hardware as well. And that's definitely something that you want. So take that physical endpoint with the 13th gen CPU in it, plus for instance, an Intel Xe discrete GPU. Then decoding that video stream to the endpoint is natively part of what the possibilities are. And especially when looking at large frames, like 4K frames, maybe twice 4K frames, with applications that tend to change on a rapid basis. So maybe like encode frames on a, let's say, 45 to 60 frames per second frame rate. Then you definitely want the decoding of the frames based on hardware as well. So I think this is when looking at an end-to-end solution purely at hardware. I think this is a great solution. It keeps the latency for a bare minimum, so there's no additional CPU cycles involved that for encoding frames to render frames. And yeah, the lower the latency, the lower the overhead to those processes, the better it is. Now, building such a platform by itself is really great, especially when looking at the endpoint, but there's something missing. And I think that managing the endpoint is one of those aspects that's really important. Now, what ITQ have done, we are an Intel partner, and we have been for the last couple of years. We've been actively working with Intel to develop the integration between Intel Emma, their endpoint management platform, and Workspace ONE. So we have developed a managed service called our ITQ Managed Digital Workspace, IMDW. And part of the platform is obviously Workspace ONE with UEM and Workspace ONE Access, Workspace ONE Intelligence, but also Intel Emma. And if the CPU utilized there has vPro capabilities, and a large number of Intel-based CPUs do have that, we could utilize a couple of different types of APIs and frameworks. One of them, for instance, is AMT, which lets you remotely manage those machines as kind of an out-of-band management perspective. We can utilize that framework to remotely manage that physical Windows machine. And that really comes in hand. Some of our customers, for instance, have unmanned endpoints. It could be like an endpoint that sits somewhere in a closet that no one ever visits, but it's attached to a large screen that is utilized to display messaging or display commercials or videos or like PowerPoints for people at the reception, stuff like that. And in that case, you still want to remotely manage those physical endpoints as well to, for instance, update or upgrade them, patch them. So what we could do utilizing our Intel EMA integration into Workspace ONE is based on a workflow in Workspace ONE Intelligence is using the data lake intelligence is basically pinpoint all of the individual vPro enabled virtual desktops or physical desktops and determine which of them are fully updated, fully patched or not. And in case they are not, we can overnight automatically run an update to, for instance, Windows 10 to Windows 11, or patch the machine, or apply security updates, or whatever, without the end user having to do anything. And I think this is a great example of how AMT enables us, for instance, to remotely shut down the machine or power it on. So it's basically out-of-band management, but fully integrated into Workspace ONE Intelligence, so we could utilize those functions into our ITQ Managed Digital Workspace. Now, it's a lot, I can imagine, but if you would like to know more about any of the topics we described in each of these individual videos. So in the first video, I talked about the GPU, it's still there. And how we can utilize the different types of graphical and computational APIs and codecs to utilize the GPU. In the second video, we talked about the developer kind of use case, where ML developers could use the One API as well as the OpenVINO framework inside a virtual desktop to work securely and remotely. And utilize the Intel Dev Cloud to get frameworks and libraries online and automatically push that into a CI/CD pipeline. And in this video, I talked about like the impact of the endpoint. Having hardware-based decoding of video streams really helps to get the best performance out of a virtual desktop session. And utilizing Intel EMA with, for instance, the AMT capability to remotely manage the physical endpoint through Workspace ONE Intelligence really helps to, from a security perspective, to always patch the machines. It helps to fully automate some of the management workloads that you, or management tasks that you have in your own organization. Now, if you want to read or want to know more about these individual topics, we created a white paper in which we completely describe the end-to-end solutions that Intel could offer together with ITQ and VMware to let you also benefit from the innovations that Intel have made, the integrations that VMware has built, and the services that we build on top of that architecture. If you want to know more, you can download the white paper using the following link. For now, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.